Hey guys, it's your girl AWF, geekxxchic, and I'm back with a reaction to The Gifted. Hiatus is over. It is 2019. Happy New Year, guys. We're here. We made it. We are some of the most fortunate people on the planet. We've made it to 2019, and my show's back. So, The Gifted, episode 10, which is called Enemy of My Enemy. And we all know the second half of that phrase, and if you don't, it is my friend, right? The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? So we had a lot go down before the break as far as some movement with the plot. We saw that not the underground, sorry, that Riva and the inner circle were one step closer to getting this mutant utopia that they're working towards, namely in shutting down all the collars and all the prisons that had mutants across the country. And of course, we had the death of Crazy Becky at the hands of Andy. And, you know, he was trying to, of course, save Lorna and everybody else, but clearly that was something that was pretty crazy for him. He'd never actually actively killed anyone before that, I don't think. So, again, I don't think he meant to kill her, but still, pretty huge deal for Andy. And then on the side of the underground, we saw that the Struckers had gone off to try to see if they could help Reed, because Reed could not seem to turn off his powers. They found this doctor who apparently had a cure or was working on a cure for mutation in general, but they discovered that her intentions were far from pure. She was looking to basically eradicate mutations in general, or at least the ones that they deemed to be too dangerous. And Lauren and her boyfriend of 13 seconds managed to take the whole thing down and got out of there. But I don't think it's the end of the whole mutant cure situation. Yes, we ended the episode with the most plot-driven capture of John by the Purifiers, and Jace putting his grubby little hands on the magnificence that is John's hair. And so here we are. I don't think anyone other than, of course, Marcos knows that John is captured. And yeah, we're going to have a whole lot of mess to deal with now that everyone's hopefully starting to come back together. So without further ado, let's jump into this episode and we will chat about it afterwards. Okay? Boom.
Four-corner pocket.
Hello, John.
I was against recruiting him for the underground. You insisted. I felt sorry for him.
Oh, wow, you felt sorry for me? I had money back then.
True facts. I was a gangster. What are you doing here? Does Riva know that you're out by yourself? Is this even real? I never know anymore.
You attacked me.
Hey, can we not go there now?
Oh, yeah, let's not point out my faults, please.
I've lost a lot.
You want me to make you feel better about joining the inner circle?
Right?
Oh, yeah.
You seem so sad.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, she kind of knows you.
Why do you have to be like this, huh?
What, sensible?
Why can't we just talk?
You want your family back? Come home.
You know I can't do that.
Okay. Peace.
These dreams could be his path out of that darkness. You have to be stronger than him, Lauren. Try.
We know.
Yeah, that's like Lauren have to do everything like she's had to for this boy since he was born. Like, can we just stop? Andy should make his own decisions for once.
I know we're desperate, but they can't be trusted, not even for a second.
Look, none of us trust them, but under
But you also have the assassin in the room hearing everything you're saying right now.
Are convicted murderers and rapists.
Some of them.
Are on the loose.
Yeah.
After everything we sacrificed,
That's the time. Regular
we should make them tell the truth.
Okay, Psycho. Reel it in.
You want him back? Meet me at the old mall parking lot. Off 17th, 10 o'clock. Alone.
Ooh, I like when he gets all gangsta again. Remember where you came from, Marco?
Come on, part of the reason why John's in this mess is because of me.
That isn't true.
Yeah, it is.
Aww.
I'm the one that yelled at him and bailed. You know, I should have been there when the purifier showed up.
Sweetheart, he was gonna be
It's not your fault.
stupid about this no matter what you said.
Look, if this is about Dawn, I can't, okay? It's too painful.
It's not that. No.
Okay, because you get to be the only one who decides that. Ugh. Oh God, let's go on to hillbilly hell now. Oh. This whole episode's gonna get on my nerves. I can feel it already.
You know, I've been hunting you better part of 3 years now.
No one cares.
To save your soul.
Okay.
Soul's doing fine, thanks.
Right? You need to check on yours if there's any left, Jace.
Because I think you will.
Really? Okay. Exactly. Let me fix my hair.
Maybe I'm not the one whose soul needs saving.
Thank you. Amen.
As I recall, you have some sort of super hearing, right?
Oh, my baby.
Here's a little thinking music.
I think it's time we stop babying him. I'm sure he's super
Oh,
strong,
making
but
him deaf
everybody
is
believes-
babying him. Okay.
We will go back to battling the inner circle later, but first, we just need to get John home.
Yeah, it's a hard question. I mean, ethics are important, but the purifiers will kill John, so.
When you were in prison, he got you out.
Mm-hmm.
He was there for us.
Never forget, your butt could still be rotting in prison, Lorna. Okay. Those boots, though. Slay, Lorna. I'm with Lauren. I'm not ready for hugs.
It wouldn't be the first time a terrorist group took it up a notch when things got bad.
He stopped
You're
saving
speaking
evil
about the
lives,
purifiers now, correct?
ending human ones.
Inner circle. I've never heard of it.
And no one has.
That's kind of the point. That's why it's an inner circle.
You like that song?
No, but it's better than silence.
No, it really wasn't. Slow torture. Creepy.
Lost my kid, I lost my wife, I lost my job.
Well,
Everything.
the last two were your fault, so.
Andy Strucker and Lorna Dane were at that bank. How do you explain that? What, they left the mutant underground?
Oh my god! An intelligent thought.
Is that it?
Finally.
Did Lorna Dane and Andy Strucker make some new friends?
Finally! Intelligent thinking! It only took torturing John for how long?
Look.
You suck.
How the hell did that happen?
Really? Do you need the play-by-play, Jace? Are you that bored in your life?
Because I couldn't make him believe.
Because I failed.
Oh, monkey, you shouldn't have had to say that to him.
I think it could be something big.
Could be. Or could be he's just trying to make us chase our tails.
All I know is if Lorna Dane
God, this man is so stupid.
How about that girl you broke out of the mental hospital? She killed those people at the bank, didn't she?
Ooh.
It was a mistake.
She's, oh, shut up.
She lost control.
Okay.
You don't do something that evil by accident.
You don't know
Logic.
anything.
She died?
Details?
How?
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't matter. That's what I thought. Okay, I really need you to use the lasers this time, Marcos, and not just light. Beautiful, I love it. Teamwork is dreamwork, baby. About time. They're like, this feels good.
She did. Then why the hell is she attacking our compound right now with Marcos Diaz?
Because they love me? Maybe you don't know what it's like to have people actually care about you.
Hey. All right, hey, never again. Come on.
Point of no return, you guys.
People took everything from me.
Who? No, you took everything from you. Wow. Chase can burn. He can just burn in all the hells. I can't even talk. I'm so mad right now. Yes, Lauren. Woo! They got their bottom lip and stank face on. Not messing with Struckers today. That was amazing. You shot yourself.
Look at
You know what that was? That was God saying you're wrong. Andy, maybe you should go find some people is all I'm saying. I wouldn't be against you finding some people. This is the one time your psychoticness would actually make me a little happy.
What's he doing?
F***ing some shit up.
Where do you think you're going, man?
Andy, stop!
Nah. Ooh, yeah. Disclaimer, I normally do not agree with this behavior, but rednecks kind of deserve it.
That's what he gets for messing with.
Yeah.
Let's go!
They're not okay with the whole torture thing, though. I mean, in this situation, I do actually understand it, Andy, but your parents needed to see this. They really needed to see this. Is Ted dead?
Oh my God.
Oh.
Don't try to move.
John,
I'm so sorry I wasn't there when you got captured.
Jace. You saved me.
That you did, but shouldn't have had in the first place.
You don't know anything, okay? You don't get it. There's only one thing to do to people like that, and it's wipe them out. End them. We can't afford to have them running around having more kids, spreading their poison.
Andy, you don't believe that.
You think you're better than me.
Here we go.
So I don't want to hear anything from any of you.
Andy.
Andy!
I'm glad you guys finally, they needed to hear this, because y'all been thinking Lauren's been tripping.
We're getting him back.
Oh God.
Is if we destroy the inner circle.
No, my God. Why are you so stupid? You're an evil woman, Lorna. Let the man get over you, will you? All right, Lauren, that's right. Time to start working them powers, right? Interesting. It's like they're Fenrising from a distance. Well, guys, that was episode 10 called The Enemy of My Enemy. And yeah, I think that was very aptly titled considering that they went after the Purifiers in this episode, and the Purifiers are obviously an enemy of both the inner circle and mutants everywhere. Let's be real about that. Pretty good episode. Great way to come back and shake us back into what's been going on this show after a couple of weeks of a break. A couple of interesting things I think went down. This was, even though there was a bit of action towards the end, it was actually a rather quiet episode. It was definitely more of a emotional and kind of character-driven episode in this one. I mean, I feel like they paced it really well with, of course, the tension and the fraughtness of trying to get John out of the kidnapping situation, but overall this definitely went into the deeper emotional stuff, particularly with the Strucker family, and then of course with Lorna and Marcos, and then by extension the stuff was going on with Jace and John. So we had three kind of plots going on there, and I guess that's a kind of a good way, I guess, to segue into discussing the parts of the episode. I guess we'll start with the Strucker family drama, since it's the freshest in my mind right now. So Andy coming back, like the first him approaching Lauren in the dream, wanting to talk because obviously he's feeling pretty lost after the death of Rebecca. A lot's gone down, and we've seen that throughout their relationship, it feels like, with Lauren and Andy. Lauren has definitely been the emotional support and kind of the person who's protected and propped Andy up most of his life. So of course, when he's feeling his most lost, he goes to his big sister. But as we've seen, Lauren is not about this life. You know, she's very strongly convicted that killing all humans or trying to create this massive division between humans and mutants is not the best way for mutants to proceed going forward. And Andy clearly doesn't feel that way, and so they're at an impasse. And I wasn't upset at all with Lauren not wanting to be there and be Andy's shoulder to cry on, because he's living with the repercussions of his decision. Like, part of him growing up is that he's got to recognize that when he makes these decisions, even if they are heavily influenced by the people around him, he has to live with the consequences. That's just life, right? There's you know, cause and effect. And she kind of brought out brilliantly to me throughout the episode. She kept saying to Andy, like, this is your decision. You chose to go with the inner circle. You want me to make you feel better about that. I'm not going to do that because I don't think it was the right choice. And if you're not feeling good about all the things that are going down, then you got to live with that. And so, you know, Andy, of course, unsurprisingly, he threw a temper tantrum when when Lauren was like, I don't want to hear it. Like, if you're just here to have me agree with you or even hear what you're about right now, then we got nothing to talk about. Like, if you're not willing to come back and be part of our family and try to work this all out, we have nothing to talk about. So I was really proud of Lauren in this episode. I've been proud of her whole season, to be perfectly honest. Lauren has been one of the most level-headed people, considering she's one of the youngest people, or supposed to be one of the youngest people in this whole group. She's probably got the most sense. She's been thinking the most rationally. She's been the most grounded, I feel. And when it comes to Andy, I think, again, she's obviously had the clearest lens in seeing him. And it's so sad to keep seeing the parents just fumble all over themselves with trying to infantilize their son and his decisions. I mean, it's true, Andy is young, and he's not capable at this age to understand the magnitude of the decisions he's making right now, but he is still making decisions. And you know, like they said, he can drive now. You know, he's grown a few inches taller. Like, he's not a baby anymore. And they need to recognize that he is allowing himself to be influenced at the moment and making decisions based on that influence. And until he starts to make his own decisions, it's going to keep happening. And I think what I like the most about this, because y'all know that me and Andy, I don't have a lot of love for his character at the moment, but I did like to see that he is vacillating a little bit as far as recognizing that maybe he should be making his own decisions, that he's not really at peace with the entire way that the inner circle's been handling everything as far as their interactions with other people, the repercussions of what they're doing. But at the core of it, what still bothers me about Andy, and I'm sorry, I know that some of y'all out there are big Andy fans, and I'm not coming for you. I mean, everyone's gonna like who they like in this show, but my biggest issue with Andy, the reason I have such a hard time being empathetic towards him, is because so much of what he does is based on the idea of inflicting suffering on others, and I just can't get behind that. I will never get behind that. I'm sorry. I feel like the best things in this world come about through showing love and acceptance, not through showing hate and trying to punish or, you know, cause pain and suffering to others. It's never worked in the history of man. You know, Andy was sitting there and saying, oh, you know, he kind of felt bad about this, he felt bad about that, but then in the other breath, he's like, my God, that speech he said at the end, if that didn't convince his parents enough, which they didn't clearly because they're dumb, well, maybe Reed, because Reed was like, what? But when he sat there and Andy looked at his parents' face and said, and looked at his human mother's face and said, oh, they should be stopped from having children, they shouldn't be allowed to do anything. He's talking about genocide now. This is like straight up genocide. And some people I know, like, who are, you know, defending the inner circle before, were trying to say, oh, the mutants, the inner circle's not about, they're just trying to have their own little place away from humans where they can do their, no, they're thinking about genocide, because hate groups don't just start with a little bit of, oh, we just want to be ourselves. No, hate groups, you can't hate without something to hate on. You need a subject for your hatred. And for mutants, with the inner circle, it's humans. They hate humans, which is so stupid and illogical, because they could have human children. Just because they're mutants is not 100% guaranteed that their children are not going to be human. They have human parents. And yes, some of those human parents were awful, but not all of them were. Some of them had loving, caring parents, like Andy. It's just so, it's just so frustrating. And it's sadly just the similar mindset to so many people out there who have deep-ridden prejudices, whether it's religious prejudices, whether it's racial prejudice, whatever. Like, that's the mentality that they get when you get to that point where it's just pure hatred, and Andy's there. And there is a small chance that a lot of that is mixed up in his emotion about, you know, killing Crazy Becky. That's still pretty fresh for him. But there is, as I said, there's always been this underlying undercurrent with Andy of just hate and anger that's really disturbing. And yes, I know there's a lot of reasons why he is that way. Like, you know, they brought up that he's been bullied for a long time. He's gone through a lot of emotional anguish even before he realized he was a mutant. But that's not the way, like, it's not the way to handle it. Like, pretty much, I'd say almost everyone in this life has been bullied at one point or another. Every person I know of in my family and in my friend circle has been bullied in one sense or another. Yes, of course, bullying goes in different extremes, but even though I was bullied for my race, bullied for the way I look, bullied for my height, I didn't grow up and think, you know, everyone who looks like the people who bullied me should die. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not, there's a point where you gotta realize that not everybody who does something, who looks a certain way, who does something, or comes from a certain background, who does something, is the same. Anyway, I'm tangenting. Point is, this is what bothers me about Andy still, and in the end, I know that a lot of his rant came from the fact that his parents were horrified over the fact that he was torturing this man who attempted to hurt them. But the fact that Andy no longer sees anything wrong with torturing someone, no matter how much they deserved it, and I mean, listen, I will own up. In the episode, I was cheering about it only because I was mad about John and because these hillbillies were willing to torture John. But either way, no one's in the right. Whether it was the Purifiers torturing mutants, whether it's mutants torturing humans, torture is wrong. No one should be doing it. It's not a good thing. It's nothing to be proud of. And I guess what's bothersome is that Andy was having so much fun with it. Like, torture shouldn't be something anyone enjoys. Anyone who can actually take joy out of hurting another person, there's a problem there. And yes, I know, I was cheering and I was saying, yes, you get it, you know, and I was cheering Andy on. This is fantasy. IRL, I would obviously not be behind anyone being tortured no matter what they've done. But again, I can understand where the Struckers, where their shock and their horror came from, but a lot of that also is because they've been keeping these rose-colored glasses on about Andy and how far he's gone down this path with the inner circle, and they were kicked off in this episode. They now see that he's not this sweet, innocent, poor boy that's being pulled along against his will. But as we saw, unfortunately, annoyingly, Andy's mom is still refusing to understand that Andrew is not, like, it's true, he does let himself be influenced, but killing the inner circle or destroying them or whatever she's got planned isn't going to stop the fact that his thinking is wrong, right? And I think I talked about this so many episodes ago about how, just like if you get rid of a hate group now, if you took like the Ku Klux Klan, for example, and you dismantled all of that, it's not going to end racism, right? Because it's a mindset. You got to change people's thinking. You can't just take out the extremes of the situation. So, but I'm glad at least that they have a better understanding that Andy's not who they think he was anymore. Hopefully it'll give Lauren less flack about her desire to keep a distance from Andy, because he is in a very dark place and she doesn't want to go there. And I think I mentioned in a couple episodes ago that there might be a balance going on there with Andy and Lauren, where Lauren is the light and Andy's the dark, and they both kind of need to be there to balance each other out. But at the moment, especially if Lauren feels like she could possibly be pulled in by Andy's darkness, I agree with her in that she should just do her own thing, keep her distance from him, and just do what they need to do. And I loved seeing that she was training at the end. That's something that the underground has been lacking in. They really haven't been trying to get stronger and better since Lorna left. It looks like she was kind of the person in the underground, at least in Atlanta, that used to be really challenging them to learn more about their powers and grow them and learn how to use them more defensively. That should not have stopped just because she left. So it's good to see that Lauren's going out on her own and trying to do that. I really think that's something Reed should be doing as well, instead of just taking these injections, because eventually that supply is going to run out. And if he doesn't figure out how to use his powers or some way to turn them off, like, it's just going to be the same situation all over again. So yeah, there's not too much more to say about that family drama. For the sake of how short their interaction was, it's probably better that they didn't have drama the entire time. Unlike if we just segues into the Lorna and Marcos situation, there's not a whole lot to talk about where they're concerned, but they clearly had a hard time keeping it civil even for just a few hours. The obvious answer to that is, you know, they clearly still love each other very much, and there's still a lot of unresolved feelings there. And so it's easier to bicker, right? Because bickering at least means, you know, you still care about someone if you're willing to bicker with them, right? And I think both of them are kind of putting the feelers out for how much love is still there. Can I still pick a fight with them? Can I still, you know, bicker like we used to? And they both got confirmation that they still have love for each other, obviously. But as Lorna said to Andy at the beginning of the episode, they're still very different on how they believe things have to go going forward. And Lorna, as we already know, is kind of invested in this inner circle vision at the moment. Not so much the inner circle itself, but the vision that they have is something that Lorna is pretty invested in. So she knows Marcos is, there is really no way that Marcos will join along with this. So you gotta kind of just bicker, you know, and just enjoy the moment. And it was just kind of cute. Seeing the two of them work together again was really nice. Even as a fan, I was like, oh, it was so nice to see the two of them, like, you know, just having a moment where they were just all the BS put aside and they were just fighting alongside each other, and you could see that they really liked that familiar feeling. But as soon as it started, it ended, and you see Lorna doing what, let's face it, they wanted to do since they first saw each other, was just give him a big old kiss on the lips and just be like, damn, I miss you, but gotta go. So I don't know what that means for the two of them. I made the comment in the reaction that I kind of wish she hadn't done that, because I feel like out of those two people, Marcos is the one that'll have the hardest time moving on. Like Lorna, I think, could easily continue on. Not that I think she'd necessarily move on to somebody else, but she's okay with just doing what she needs to do and not having Marcos in the picture. I think Marcos is definitely suffering with this more than she is. So the fact that she does something like that, I feel like just kind of gets Marcos's hopes up all over again, that, you know, there could be a future for the two of them. And I don't know, maybe there could be, maybe he could eventually see past everything she's done, but the more and more that the inner circle does, the more I think it's going to be hard for Marcos to ever be able to go back to what they used to have and be able to just get over all of it to get back together with Lorna. And as I said in many episodes ago, I'm personally not a fan of how she's treated Marcos throughout this entire situation with Dawn, so I personally don't think they necessarily need to get back together, at least until Lorna can acknowledge the fact that she's been incredibly selfish and hurtful towards towards Marcos, and work on somehow being better about that in the future so that he doesn't have to keep going through this torture with her. And last but certainly not least, we had the John and Jace situation. Wow. I feel like out of all the drama we saw this episode, what went on between John and Jace was by far the most emotional, dramatic, and impactful of the episode. And the main reason I say that is because you got two men who are leaders, two men who know what it is to be strongly convicted about something, and the two of them being on opposite sides of a very similar issue and just kind of laying all their emotional cards out on the floor. It was really interesting to watch. I mean, those two actors played really well off each other, first and foremost. I think they did such a good job just in their dialogue and the intensity, the heaviness of that scene. And I think the parts that really stood out to me in particular was when Jace sat there with him and said, you know, when he was finally using his brain and not thinking like a redneck and actually thinking like Jace, who actually has some intelligence, or used to, when he said, okay, fine, so Lorna and Andy, they broke off, they left the underground to go to the inner circle. Why? Like, why would that happen? How did that happen? He's like, well, how would they just abandon the, you know, the X-Men's vision when they were with you? And you could see that Jace was genuinely interested in that moment. Like, it wasn't just like him trying to dig at, you know, John and his sore spots. It really was him like genuinely curious about how, because he's seen John as this big illustrious leader of the underground. Like, that's kind of like he said, I've studied your file for years. I know it like the back of my hand. I know everything about you. And I think even though he didn't admit it in that moment, I think Jace probably even respected and maybe admired John a little bit for the fact that he was able to do that. So he was like genuinely like, how did you lose people? Like, I would feel like you were like the Jesus of these people, that they would never leave you. John just having this broken look on his face and in his eyes, and I was like, my poor baby. And he was like, it was my fault because I couldn't convince them. I couldn't make them believe. I was like, bruh. Why are you attacking me like this? It was such a great, poignant moment for John. It just puts the spotlight on what has been John's issue since this season began. It is something he would probably never admit to Clarice, never admit to Marcos, even though he probably should because these are the people who are closest to him. But that right there in 1 or 2 sentences is the crux of why his powers have been on the blink, to why he's been acting the way he is, you know, being impulsive and shut down and irrational and just all over the place. In that one sentence, he's like, I couldn't convince him. He feels like he hasn't been a good enough leader or had enough, I don't know, charisma or whatever it is to convince these people he cares about that the vision the X-Men left for him to be in charge of was important enough for them to follow. And that's so heartbreaking because I think anyone who's ever been a leader or in a position like that, it's such a weight to carry, to feel like you've got these people in your charge and it's your job to keep them on track and to help them and to steer them to be the best that they can be, and then feeling like you failed at that. It really hurts people who take leadership very seriously. And I think I've said on many occasions that leadership is what John does. He doesn't know what to do without a mission, without leading people to some sort of charge. And he felt like he failed at this, and it's eating him up inside. It's killing him slowly. So I think I'm hoping that the fact that he just finally said that out loud, like just kind of vomited this thing that's been rotting in his gut for so long, I'm hoping that this will be the steps towards him finally just being like, okay, I gotta let it go. I can't control these people. As much as you can try to lead people, in the end, they gotta choose to follow. Hopefully now that it's out, he'll just be able to move forward, because that's what has to happen now. If there's any chance for the Mutant Underground, and more importantly, just for our little group to survive all of this, they gotta move forward. We can't look back to what the Underground used to be. And also, let's face it, whatever the X-Men would have put in place when the Underground started, things have changed. Things have shifted since then. The Inner Circle probably wasn't a factor at that point. It's a different game than when the X-Men left, so they gotta change the game to match up what's going on now. So I'm glad that John got out. Oh my God, though, before we even got out of that, for y'all out there who might have been thinking there was a teeny tiny chance that Jace might be redeemable, which I pretty much threw out the window at the beginning of the season. As soon as he joined the Purifiers, I was like, no, his soul is lost. But if y'all thought there was any chance, homie pumped, what, 5 bullets. Now, what are those things called again? BB? Is it BBs? I can't remember the name. I know the name of that type of shot, but they're the ones that are meant to inflict a lot of pain, which they did, clearly. And obviously, the fact that he had some super strength is the only reason he didn't die. But Jace shot him multiple times because he wanted him to suffer before he died. And it was so frustrating, first of all, to see Jace thinking logically and then coming back to redneck thinking again. But again, if you're fueled by hate, you're not thinking clearly anyways. But oh my gosh, wow. Like, that was such a powerful scene too. I mean, seeing Jace finally snap under the pressure of what he's gone through over the last year as well. I couldn't, because he was torturing a baby, I had a hard time feeling empathy for him. But if you could take aside what he was doing, it was a very sad moment for Jace. Like he said, you know, in his mind, the mutants have taken everything from him. He's like, I lost my daughter, I lost my wife, I lost my job, I've lost my credibility. I'm here with these rednecks. And in his mind, mutants have put him here. Of course, the reality is he put himself there with the choices he's made based on ignorance and hate, and to follow that, because as we see, his wife, who went through a similar situation, of course she didn't go through like what Dreamer did to his head and everything else there, but his wife, who equally lost a daughter, equally knows the situation, she went through all of that, and yet she still is to the point where she's like, I don't want to go around hating mutants. I don't want to go down this path because I see that it doesn't go anywhere good. Two people, similar situations, different choices. And we see where his wife is moving on and she's thriving and surviving, and he's just spiraling. But seeing the fact that, you know, the effects of all that he's been through come out, and he's shooting Jace, he's shooting John, when really, you know, he's just, that's him. That's the pain he's feeling right now. I mean, really, I feel like if we could have seen what was going through Jace's eyes in that moment, he saw himself sitting strapped in that chair, shooting himself for being so stupid, because I know that in the depths of his heart, Jace knows that he is the only one responsible for where he is right now, but it's easier to blame someone else, to pinpoint it elsewhere, so that he doesn't have to take the accountability and, you know, actually take action to turn this complete shit show of a life he's got going on right now around. As I said at the beginning of the season, they're setting Jace up to be a super villain as far as the mutants in general, because he's not going to care. Underground, Inner Circle, X-Men, he don't care. Mutants are just dead to him now, and we saw that when he promised John that he was going to kill him and everyone he's ever cared about, because it doesn't make any sense. We saw Jace, I think, finally fracture in this episode, and I think that's why that scene was so poignant and hard to watch, because again, my baby. But he broke. I think whatever little piece of humanity he had left died in that scene. He shot it right out of John. So yeah, it was a really powerful scene, really well done, really well acted by both actors, and I never want to see a scene like that again, but it was really awesome to watch. There was no Riva, no triplets this episode, no one other than the handful of people budgeted for, so I'm going to be interested to see if Riva is going to find out about this escapade and how she's going to feel about it. It's also going to be interesting to see how Andy is going to go forward, because he seems more convicted than ever to stick with the Inner Circle and, you know, go ham. But how much of that is really because he believes in the cause, and how much of that is just to give the finger to his parents, we'll never know. I mean, the fact that he even said to Lauren, "You think you're better than me," where'd that come from? Like, there's just all kinds of stuff going on with Andy's crazy little self. So I'm interested to see where or if that's going to come to some kind of logical conclusion to make all of this drama with him worth it this season. So what did you guys think of the episode? Sorry I'm a little bit late with uploading this one, but you know, holiday craziness. Please leave your comments below about what you're thinking about this episode. And if you like this video, please click like. And if you want to see more from this geeky face, please click subscribe. Until next time,